Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Anderson again. We are moving on from the appendix and we're heading into Chapter 2 in our CPM CCA textbook. And Chapter 2, of course, can be found toward the top of the table of contents, right? The appendix was all the way at the back of the book, one of the last things that we encountered. Chapter 2 is going to be back toward the top. And we're going to jump into Section 2.1, and we're going to start the discussion on something maybe you already have some experience with, and that is growth rates. Right? Rates of change, slope, stuff like that. And we're going to use a varying representation of terminology to discuss this. And some of the things you're going to have heard of, some of the things you may not have heard of. And we're going to keep all these things in mind as we go throughout this discussion. One of the other things that we're going to really kind of get into in greater depth is this little web that we've got going on here, and it's what we're going to call a function web. And what you can see here, and it's okay if you don't understand it yet, what you can see here are some common representations of functions that we're going to be talking about. One of the ones that we spent a ton of time with in the appendix is, of course, the equation, and we're going to learn some new representations in this Chapter 2 unit. And our goal by the end of this section, by the end of Section 2.1 over the next couple of days, is to try to answer the question, how does it grow? Everything we're going to be talking about in this section is all about linear growth. So it is going to have that constant predictable pattern that you maybe need to do some searching for, but it will come with some predictability. So let's talk about that linear relationship. We're going to use growth rates and starting values and try to connect with this in mind, the equations to graphs, tables, and situations. Situations is just another name for word problems. All right. And we're going to talk about specifically today the growth of tile patterns. Now, not the algebra tiles. Well, technically it's an algebra tile. It's the unit tile. But we're going to talk about growth with tile patterns. And the biggest thing that you can do for yourself today is try some of these things. I'm going to show you a couple e-tools. I'm going to show you some opportunities and some resources, and you might need to pause the video to try them. And the only thing I can say is just take that time. Spend 5 minutes goofing around, because play is one of those things that is going to foster some of that learning that you might be after, right? If one of the things you find yourself saying is, I don't get it, goof around. See if you can explore. See if you can play and achieve the learning pieces that we're after. So how do we see growth, right? That's kind of question number one. How do we see growth? What does that look like? What's our starting value? What's our initial given value, etc.? And then what kind of connection do we see from that physical representation to the equation or to a table, and so on and so forth. So we start with that tile pattern representation, and in this tile pattern representation, you can see the change from the left to the right, figure 1, figure 2, and figure 3. And I want to show you this. It's in section 2.1.1 in your textbook. And if I click over to the book, excuse me, let me minimize that. Okay, it's not going to let me do that. It doesn't look like. There we go. Okay, I have a couple of features available, and those features are the resource page, which I've uploaded in Schoology for you, and the Student E-Tool. Now, the Student E-Tool is going to allow you the opportunity to do some manipulating, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. But we're going to tackle this first question, and I can draw on it. You guys can, of course, copy into your notes and draw on it. But we've got a pattern. It starts with figure 1, and then it says, hey, what do you notice about the pattern? Now, if you need to, pause this, but after you've taken a look at it, go ahead and let's start that discussion. So if you need to, pause this now. Otherwise, what I'm going to let you guys know that I notice is from figure 1 to figure 2, this is a new tile, and these two things are new tiles. Okay? And then from figure 1 to figure 2 to figure 3, these were the new ones in figure 2. And then just grabbing a different color highlighter here. Oops, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I made a mistake here. Let me back this up real quick. Nope, I didn't. I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. Sorry. I got the wrong one. These were the new ones in figure 2. And now, let me grab that different color highlighter. These are the new ones in figure 3. And what I notice is that in figure 2, we got 2 new tiles on the right-hand side, 1 new on the left-hand side, and in figure 3, that same thing happened. So as I move from figure 1 to figure 2, I notice, hey, we added a total of 3 new tiles. And as I move from figure 2 to figure 3, I notice, hey, I added 3 new tiles. So when it comes to what did I notice, hey, I added 3 each time. That's growth, right? When I take that iteration and I move up, I'm growing. I'm adding 3 each time. And this is one of those things where highlighting might come in and serve me here. Because part B says, sketch the next figure. All right, well, let me see here. Go back to my E tool. I can go ahead and I can start doing some drawing here. I can maybe, oh, it doesn't matter what color I get, but I can start dragging these things out here. And I can go from figure, I can repeat figure 1, 2, 3 there. And I'll do this. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I need a couple going up that right-hand side. So 1, 2. I will say it sure would be great to grab more than one at a time, but maybe that just kind of, really highlights my process here. But there's figure 3, and now I'm going to repeat what I said we were doing. We're adding 1 more on the left, and we're adding 2 more on the right, for a total of adding 3 tiles. So there's figure 4. Was that predictable for you, right? Sketch the next tile. You can take a moment and draw that. All right, if you have the ability to print it, I of course recommend taking care of that on your resource page. Okay? Then they open up an idea for us here, and they say, hey, figure 0 is the one that comes before figure 1. What in the heck does that thing look like? Well, as we go from figure 1 to figure 2 and figure 3 and figure 4, as the figure number goes up, we're adding 3 tiles every single time. But what happens if I were to go backwards? And this might be guessable for you. If I go from figure 2 to figure 1, how do I get there? Well, I'd have to take away the 2 from the right and the 1 from the left. I'd have to subtract 3. And so what would this look like if I went back to figure 0 and took 3 tiles off? That's our goal. All right? And I'm going to go ahead and try to do that. I'm going to take this one off the left-hand side and these 2 off the right-hand side. And imagine what that looks like. I'll try to draw figure 0 here. 1, 2, 3. Oops. 3, 4. And that's that 0th figure, which sounds weird to say, but there we go. There's figure 0 there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that fit our pattern? If we take the 7 in figure 1 and we subtract 3, 2 from the right and 1 from the left, are we left with these 4? And I think we are. All right? And the only way I get there is by playing and goofing around with that. Okay? By how much is pattern A growing? Well, again, the sketching, right? Here's pattern A. The sketching and growth here really helped me with that. So I'm going to go ahead and identify by 3 tiles it's growing. Okay? And then where are the tiles being added with each new figure? Color in the new tiles. And I already did this. 1 on the left and 2 on, the right. Okay, 1 on the left and 2 on the right, and that really was identified by my highlighting here. And if you have the ability to print off that resource page, you can definitely do so, but if not, just go ahead and a quick sketch in your notebook is going to do you just fine here. All right, now part D says, hey, what would the 100 figure look like in A? Describe it in words. How many tiles would there be in the 100th figure? Find as many ways as you can to justify your conclusion. Go ahead and pause if you need to here. All right? But we're going to be doing something like this, and you're going to be reporting back here this week on what this might look like. But I know that I'd have 4 here in the base, and then I know I'd have a lot going up here on the left-hand side, and then I'd have a lot more. It'd be much taller going up here on the right-hand side. I know it would be something like that, and I would have had to add 100 over here, and I would have had to add 200 over here, because for every 1 that I was adding over here, I was adding 2 over here. All right, see if you can figure that out. See if you can come up with what's going on there, okay? And this is the hard part in E, but it's ultimately our goal by the time we're done with this section, is it says write an equation that relates the figure number x to the number of tiles. Well, here's where we need to get. We start with a number, and in this case, the number was in our starting figure, and our starting figure was figure 0. We started with 4 tiles, okay? And then what were we doing? Now I'm going to write this a little bit more mathematically. We were adding how many to it every single time. There's our growth rate. How's this looking? Is this looking like something you've seen before? You might have a name for this. You might have a name for this pattern in this organization to the number of tiles y. So I've got y equals 3x plus 4. All right? What do you call this thing right here? And what do you call this thing right here? Do we have some formal names for those things? All right? That's where we're headed. Okay? 2, 2, right? 2, 2 is a similar pattern. I'm going to pause this one, and I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to let you pause and try this. You can do the exact same thing. There is an E tool for this. You can goof around, see if you can build that, that next figure, see if you can build the 0th figure, and go on. But I'm going to move on to 2, 3 before I discuss the review preview here. And we're going to look at the exact same idea, almost the exact same idea here, in just a little bit different of a form. This is an equation. So it says we've got the equation y equals 3x plus 1, and we want to fill in this table. Okay, and filling in tables is going to be just a tiny little piece on how to put it, substituting and evaluating. Okay, so what we're going to start to do here is when we fill in these things for x, or substitute these things in for x, we're going to evaluate and we're going to get an output. When we put in things for x, we're going to get an output for y. So when I plug in 0 for x, I've got 3 times x, or 3 times 0 plus 1, turns out to be 1. When I plug in 1, I've got 3 times 1 plus 1. What's 3? Well, that's 3, and then plus 1 is 4. All right, now I can start to see that growth rate. Right? I went up from 1 to 3, 4. Oh, I went up by 3. Okay, let's try again. 3 times 2 plus 1. Okay, that's 3 times 2 is 6. Well, 7. Hey, all right, there's that predictable growth we were talking about. I went up by 3, I went up by 3. I'm going to go up by 3 again, and go up by 3 again. All right? How many tiles is this pattern growing by? Well, and it's growing every single time by 3 tiles. And what do you look for, or where do you look? Well, I think it's probably pretty clear that that growth rate is identifiable by that thing right there, right? And what do we call that? Well, like I said, you might know the name. You may have heard me say the name. That's slope, right? We're going to really start to nail that idea down in this unit. And then where do you look to see the starting value? You look after the slope. Well, this is in a special form, so maybe it's not appropriate to say after the slope, but you look at the constant. And the constant is that thing without an x, and that thing is, I'm going to go around that right there, okay? And then finally, where do you look in the equation to see the growth in the starting value? I think we kind of already hit on that there, all right? And those 2 items right there are going to be our growth and our starting value when written in this form. And I was hinting at it. This form is called slope-intercept form. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop this video. If you've got everything you need, you are welcome to keep on keeping on. I'm going to stop this video, though, and I'm going to continue with one more video, just a little short one, next here in just a second, on what a function is, because if you don't recall what that is, you're going to need that for your review preview. So I will go ahead and start another video with that. But if you are ready to rock, then, ladies and gents, your review preview is 2 to 10. All right? Thanks for watching. Have a great day.